Hi, and welcome to Storytime. I'm Kimberlyn of Life's Work Yoga. We're starting our 6th season. I can't hardly wrap my head around the fact that I've been sharing teachings and practices of yoga from here in my studio. Well, there was a time when I was at home during the shutdown, and bringing you consistent, regular content to inspire your daily living, your practice of living well, in alignment, rooted and based on the practices and principles of yoga. Welcome to season 6. In this season of Storytime, I'm relying on the work of others, experts who have compiled and translated stories from India that relate specifically to the yoga practice, teachings, and principles. Additionally, I'll be sharing my own favorite ways of weaving these stories into practice and how they show up in my life, how they've enriched and taught me how to live in greater authentic alignment. I hope that you'll join me. Now, I'm using the work of 3 authors, specifically Classic Tales from India by Vatsala Sterling and Harish Johari, and Myths of the Asanas by Alana Kaivalya. Now, Vatsala Sterling grew up hearing these traditional Indian stories from her mother and is fluent in numerous Indian languages, including the yoga language of Sanskrit. Alana Kaivalya is a scholar as well, a yoga teacher and a PhD doctorate in yoga as personal mythology. Now, I've always loved stories from the time that I was little and hearing them from my older siblings and my parents, to even hearing the parables from the pulpit at church, to when I was raising my children and it was precious time to share stories at their bedtime. But it was also precious to share stories in the day-to-day living of learning how to do life, to choose what we value and how we would act. So Storytime is not just a place for me to talk and speak and share. It's also a place to inspire you, to help you integrate and apply the yoga lessons beyond the yoga mat and the meditation cushion. So I'm going to each gathering, each time we come together for Storytime, I'm going to invite you into a deeper introspection with some questions that you can use for journaling, or some suggestions that you can bring into your practice of meditation or even asana. How you use Storytime is entirely up to you, but my hope is that it inspires you, that you use it to find your way to your own sense of spark, your own sense of divine truth, so that you can live in greater authentic alignment, so that you can breathe deeply and move freely, to labor lovingly and live vibrantly. Now, Storytime started as a way in which to connect, to share the stories that had impacted my life and meet with others who shared their stories of how they came to know their life's work, to connect with inspiration, to find and cultivate clarity. And so over the years, each season has taken on just a little bit of a different focus, a little bit of a different nuance. There were seasons where I was all by myself, virtually and literally, right? Because this Storytime has gone from a weekly Facebook gathering to now a monthly deep dive into the yoga practices and principles. It continues to adapt to the feedback that I receive from you and a reflection of my own growth and journey. Storytime is as alive as you and I are. And in that aliveness, it'll continue to grow and to expand and to shift, because that is the journey of life. If you're in the middle of shift, let's connect. If you're starting something new, let's connect. If you're a little disinterested or maybe feeling overwhelmed and disconnected, let's connect. Let's build our practice of finding joy and inspiration in the daily practices of breathing, moving, and resting. So what happens in Storytime? Well, we meet just like this, right? I record and do a little bit of editing to then post on the Inspired app. It's also posted on the YouTube channel, but for the greatest convenience of sequential learning and continuity, download the Inspired app. It's free. You get this content for free on a monthly basis. Breathe with me. Pause and meditate with me. Do a practice of breathing, moving, and resting, or join me for story time. As well, there are numerous other book studies and coursework to help you enrich and deepen your yoga journey, your living intimately with prana. How can I best support your inspired life? That's what I do. And so begins our adventure into the classic tales from India. This season, I'll share stories like how Ganesh got his elephant head, introduce you to the mythic Ganges River, meet Ram, the demon slayer, travel with Hanuman on a journey to Medicine Mountain, and so much more. As I said, I've always loved stories, hence story time. But I especially love stories that help us to live well, that help bring us together. Now, I share these stories to expand our minds and our hearts and to help us to grow in authentic alignment, to help us live more mindfully, more purposefully, more compassionately every day. But connection is key for that. And that means I'm counting on you to reach out, to reply, to respond, to join in the conversation. So that's my invitation. Let's connect. I want to hear from you. What stories did you hear growing up? How did they land? Where did they cause you to get curious or even confused? Where did they validate and affirm? How did they help you clarify what mattered most? What a hero was? What kind of hero you wanted to be? And for whom? When I hear from you, I use your questions and examples to personalize, to expand, and to dive deeper into these messages and help you translate them into guidance for your own day-to-day living. So email me. Join me on the Inspired app. Come to the studio. Whether you visit us in the studio or online, whether it's for a one-on-one or a group experience, we want to meet you in the practice. We want to support you in the practice that begins with self-care and expands into introspection and connection. We want to support you in living your life's work. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I look forward to sharing our stories and our study of Indian mythology through the season of Storytime. Season 6. May you breathe deeply and move freely, labor lovingly, and live vibrantly. May you be well. Namaste.